Today we're going to be revisiting Spyro the Dragon. Oh man, I'm getting so much nostalgia looking at this. I can't even tell you guys the last time that I played the PS1 version of this game. Obviously, I bought the Reignited trilogy, played through those games when that first came out, but even that was a couple years ago at this point, so it's definitely been a while since I've gotten to play this game. In the world of dragons. Oh man, no, the nostalgia is hitting hardcore right now. You know what? Just in case you guys haven't played this game before, we'll chill, we'll watch the cutscene together.
Peaceful here in the 5 worlds, or is it 6 for a dragon's age? We now have 12,000.
Man, it is insane seeing this game scaled up to HD. Because obviously via the Duck Station emulator, we're able to upscale it.
Now I understand he's found a magic spell to turn gems into warriors for his cause.
I'll take that question. Nasty Nork is a simple creature. Simple. He has been contained in a remote world and is no threat to the Dragon Kingdom. No threat! Besides, he is ugly. That does it.
Looks like I've got some things to do.
Oh man, this era of gaming was just so different when like the 3D, mascot platformers were the thing. Thankfully, we've been seeing a resurgence of those in recent years, but oh man, this just hits so different. I'm literally tearing up right now. The nostalgia hurts. Don't get me wrong, as much as I love the Reignited trilogy, there's something about this original version. It hits different. All right, rescue Nestor.
Thank you for releasing me, Spyro. Free 10 dragons in the artisan world. Then find the balloonist. He'll transport you to the next world.
What about Nasty Nork? I'm going after him.
Find dragons first. That's all I can tell you.
It's crazy, despite the fact that it's been like literal years since I've played this game, like the controls just feel so natural when you return to it. Like, we've been playing for like not even 5 minutes and we're already seeing some graphical glitches. It is what it is though. It probably has something to do with the emulator if we're going to be honest, because the original game is very well polished. There's something about the gems in Spyro games. It's one of the most satisfying collectibles in like any 3D collectathon that I've played. Rescue Thomas.
Hey, Spyro, press the jump button twice to glide. And don't be afraid.
Afraid? Of what?
Falling from high mountain peaks, plummeting into prehistoric glaciers.
Oh, that.
This game is just oozing with charm, and that's the thing with a lot of these 3D platformers that like all of us loved back in the day. It's so much charm, so much personality, so much love. It's so good. Look at Spyro's little PS1 fire breath. I mean, hey, for a PS1 game, those fire effects are actually really good. Spyro's moveset was always rather simple, but that was part of its charm as well. Like, it was so easy to grasp. Like, anybody could pick it up and play it, but if you took the time to actually like thoroughly learn and master those mechanics, then you'd be able to pull off some like incredible feats that most players wouldn't be able to. But at the same time, it was never required that you like master it to such an extent. In a way, it's almost similar to like Mario 64, where like anybody can pick it up and play it. Anybody can become acquainted with it, but when you try to speedrun the game and when you try to master the mechanics, that's where like the death comes in. For me, if I'm gonna be honest, I never took it to that extreme. Like, I never tried to speedrun the game or, master the mechanics to that extent. That being said, I did play all of the original Spyro games on PS1, like that initial trilogy, and then I also played like A Hero's Tale on PS2. Beyond that, I haven't played too much of the other Spyro games. I did play one of the Legend of Spyro games. It was the Eternal something, I think. And then there was another one called A New Beginning, I believe, which is another one that I played, but otherwise, I didn't play too much of those like late PS2, 360, PS3 era Spyro games too much. I actually did just order them not too long ago though, so I will be playing them for the first time here very soon. I've heard that they're quite a bit different, and from what I remember playing, yeah, they're a bit different. Like, it goes into like the beat 'em up territory more than 3D platformer collectathon like these original games were. This game also came out before the analog controller came out, because for those of you that don't know, you can play almost any PS1 game, barring some games like Ape Escape, with basically just the D-pad, because the original run of PS1 controllers didn't even have analog sticks. It was just the D-pad, the buttons, the L1, R1, L2, R2 buttons. So you had some games like this. I'd show you guys the controller, but my cord is way too short. But basically, you have to use the left trigger and right trigger to like move the camera around. See, right now, I'm just using the D-pad to control Spyro just because that's what feels natural to me, because that's how I played it back in the day. So, this feels relatively natural to me. I can imagine if you're trying to pick the game up for the first time, it may not feel as natural trying to adapt to this control scheme. But for me personally, I mean, it still feels really really natural today. And again, despite the fact that we're upscaling it to 1080p, I mean, the game still looks fantastic. Sure, you got a couple of like jagged edges here on the edge of this platform or whatever, but I mean, you're looking at these models, like looking at the 3D models just for what they are, like they look absolutely fantastic. If I'm gonna be honest, and this might be a hot take, I kind of prefer the look of the original over the Reignited trilogy. Don't get me wrong, the Reignited trilogy, it looks fantastic, it looks great, but there's something about it, it's a little overly saturated, it's like, there's a little bit too much polish on it, you know what I mean? And I know that might sound like a little boomerish of me, but it's what I prefer. It's the same reason that I prefer the original Battle for Bikini Bottom, at least aesthetically speaking, over the newer one. I don't necessarily have an issue with like overly saturated games or anything, not even close. I love the look of some of those games.
SPYRO. I had the worst itch on the tip of my wing. Oh, did you know that you get your longest glides by pressing X at the very top of your jump?
That's one of the nice things about games that were designed specifically for one platform or that were exclusive to one platform, rather than having like a generic text prompt come up where it's just like, press the action button or press this button with like some sort of like generic PNG of the button there. When you had games like this that were exclusive to one platform, they were able to have like the voice actors actually say what button it is. I know that's such a small thing, but it just adds to the atmosphere, like the immersion of the game, you know what I mean? But as I was saying, yeah, I don't mind games that are like overly saturated. In fact, I like how a lot of like really saturated and like pretty bright games look. It's just that when I compare it to the original, I feel like there was a little bit of something lost there in translation. Like, it's very saturated, you know what I mean? But in terms of the gameplay itself, yeah, the Reignited trilogy is amazing. I mean, it's a one-to-one recreation of the original Spyro, so of course it's amazing. Like, the game is literally as spiritual as you can get when it comes to remakes. Like, it is literally one for one with the original. It's amazing. Got another dragon to save over here. Rescued Alvar.
SPYRO, did you see a man dressed in blue running around here? He's a thief, and he's stolen a dragon egg. You've got to track him down and get that egg. Run! Run!
I'll find him.
Getting a little winded.
Normally my videos, you know, I wouldn't include all the story stuff, like all the cutscenes and all that, but I mean, I don't know, for Spyro it's different because I know a lot of folks, even though the Reignited trilogy does exist, there's not that many people that have actually even played Spyro, even with that remake existing, so, you know, I'm kind of including some of that stuff just in case some of you guys haven't played this game before. That being said, if you haven't played this game before, what are you doing? There are just some games that I feel like everybody needs to play. Even if you don't fully complete them, at least pick them up, try them, and play them at least one time in your life. One of those would be Spyro. Another one would be like any of the Crash Bandicoot games, whether it's Crash 1, 2, 3, or even Crash Bandicoot 4. Crash Bandicoot 4 is definitely worthy of the, you know, like 4 title. When it comes to anything I would have wanted out of a true like Crash Bandicoot 4, if you're not including like Wrath of Cortex or Twin Sanity in the original Crash Bandicoot timeline, then yeah, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time is literally just, it's, dare I say, a perfect sequel. I always love these 3D platformers that have these little hub worlds too. Like Mario 64, obviously you got the castle, and then here in Spyro, you got like the little town here. It's just, I don't know, I always love little hub worlds in between levels. You can just go back, kind of relax, and just like gather your bearings before setting back out on the adventure. Funnily enough, with the flying controls in this game, using the trigger to move the camera around as you glide is actually more natural feeling than if you would try to use the thumbstick, because obviously, if you try to fly around and move the camera at the same time, if it had like a more modern control scheme, you'd be having to claw. If you don't know what claw is, it's basically where you put your middle finger on the back trigger, and then you use your index finger to touch the buttons while you use your thumb to move like the right stick around. You basically had to be doing that with a modern control scheme, but on this original version, I mean, you use the triggers to look around and you're able to keep your hands in a natural position. No chicken will survive. I'm definitely interested to hear from you guys. Have any of you guys either played Spyro before? Did you play the PS1 original? Did you get started with the Reignited trilogy? I always love hearing about those things whenever I make these videos. It's always interesting to hear like other people's gaming backgrounds, like whether they grew up with the original, whether they didn't play it till later on, whether they only played the remake. I'd also be curious to know if any of you guys played any of the games that came after the original trilogy. Like, A Hero's Tale was a pretty good follow-up to the original trilogy. Like, it was pretty faithful, but I'd definitely be curious to know if any of you guys are familiar with the games that came after that, like the ones that experimented with more story elements, beat 'em up elements and such, because I haven't played too much of those. It's honestly been making me really happy to see just how many of these 3D platformers have been getting more love and like remakes in recent times. Pac-Man World Repack came out not that long ago, which that's one that I never thought was gonna get a remake. I'm hoping that maybe one day we can get like a Mega Man Legends remake. Those games were absolutely fantastic. But anyways, that's where we're gonna wrap things up for now. I don't want to go too far into the game just in case any of you guys haven't played this before. Again, if you haven't played this game before, please do so. Like, just any of the Spyro games, they're absolutely fantastic. Anyway, as always, a massive shout out and thank you to all the patrons and channel members. Thank you to all of you in the low baller tier, and an even bigger shout out and thank you to all of you in the big baller tier, Mellow Last King and Big Daddy Matty, and the biggest shout out and thank you to all of you in the G tier, Rhino Vengeance and Little Cheese Girl. Thank you guys so much. You guys are literal legends. I love you. Thank you guys for watching. Have an amazing day. Stay beautiful. I love you all. Peace.